Hi, this is Dan. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to update those who are interested in what's going on in Dimgaard. Um, and I expect to do this a couple of times a week going forward. So the big thing for me, the most important thing for me was that, right, so at the very end of volume 22, episode 21 of Veiled Secrets was Arethusa, and it turned out to be a very deadly module in its original presentation. And I was all right with that, right? So one of the Dimgaard principles is that for it to truly be heroic, there's got to be a real possibility of failure. And in the first 5 playtests of Arethusa, they were all TPKs. They penetrated at differing levels into the content, but none of them successfully completed it. And I was like, well, okay, so that's hard. We did a real rigid evaluation of Arethusa to see if she was, a valid CR30 creature, and she was in her original presentation, but she was just a really well constructed CR30 that was. But, CR30, she's a god, she's an archfey, and that goes back to my philosophy that there should be things that are very, very hard. You go to kill an archfey, you should expect it to be hard. And additionally, right, we were looking at the final episode. So at 21, your character's already been 20th level. He's not going to advance any higher in D&D 5th edition unless you go do some extra content type things. So I was all right. That seemed like an appropriate setting or appropriate finish, right? A big grand send off against trying to slay an evil archfey. But there was quite a bit of pushback amongst the editorial staff. But I listened to their arguments about that there should be while it should be hard, it's one thing to be hard. There should still be the realistic possibility of completing a module. But in the end, I was happy with the original presentation, and we were ready to publish that. But one of the contributors at the last minute said, look, one of the other principles of Dimgaard is DM agency, to give the DM as many possible options as you absolutely can. So why are you taking that away? Why not present an alternate scenario? So that ended up being about a 3-week delay. And what we ended up doing is they're now in FS21 Arethusa. There are 2 implementations, both technically valid CR30 creatures, but one is very much harder to deal with in the manner in which the module is presented than the other. We play tested the second implementation once. Players succeeded. We were happy with that. So because of that delay, though, there was some other things that allowed us to discuss. It gave us a time to take a breath, and so going forward, we have decided that we're going to have 2. So we've experimented with a variety of formats, right? We had the very slow burn where we ended up with like 86 episodes with some ancillary episodes in the 3-year campaign, 4-year campaign, something like that. And we've had some very accelerated campaigns where we've gone from like 1st level to 20th level in like 6 with these big leaps. And then we have kind of something in the middle, which is this 21 episode. And we say 21 episodes, and really what we found is that most DMs don't get that done in 21 sessions, especially if they're 3 or 4 hour sessions. The 21 episodes usually stretch into like 28 or 29 sessions because each episode conforms to enough XP to get the PCs to the next level. And there are just some broad levels, like there are levels where in order to get the PCs to the next level, you've got to have like 15 or 16 hard events, and even if you, well, between medium and hard events, and even if you say, okay, we're going to take 2 or 3 of those and convert them to story awards, you're still looking at 12 or 13 medium to hard events, and you just can't cram that into one adventuring day. So then you end up with 2 adventuring days, and you say, okay, are we going to be able to get? It's already hard enough to get a full adventuring day into one session, and in order to get 2 adventuring days into one session, you would just have to have nothing but hazards. And hazards serve a function, and they can be interesting, and they can be presented, but they're really not the meat of the game, right? The meat of the game is PCs meeting NPCs, and so those broad, and they occur mostly beginning at about 3rd level to about 10th level. Those maybe 13th level. Those tend to be episodes that you're not going to fit into one session. So you end up going closer to 30 episodes to sessions in a 21 episode adventure. But that's what we're going to start focusing on. We're going to have 2 of those going, and then like a 3rd one on the burn. By going, I mean if you look at the monthly digest going forward, we're going to stagger those where we'll have a low level, and then a high mid, and then a low mid and a high level, right? So they kind of move together. So there's a broad offering there. Then we have the Patreon. The Patreon hasn't, to be honest with you, hasn't taken off the way I hoped that it would. We don't really have the numbers to support a weekly module there, which was the hope initially. So what we're doing is we're going to convert that to 2 a month, and we can increase that if we get better numbers. But right now, those 2, one will support each of the 2 longitudinal adventures. Now they won't be integral to that; they'll be ancillary. And the idea is that they could serve as standalones for people who don't want that 28, 30 episode commitment, but they want to experience our take on the content. They could also serve as rehab for a TPK, right? So your party's 8th level, they have a TPK, so you need to offer them get back on course adventure. That would also be the case if it wasn't a TPK, but they just significantly failed to achieve all the objectives and come up short on XP. And you're like, well, I could fudge it. I could just give them the extra XP, or I could use this ancillary adventure to get them where they're supposed to be. And then even if you're following the 20 episodes, the intent is that these additional Patreon-based adventures we'll go a little bit deeper into explore some of the nuances of the subject matter that aren't making it into that longitudinal adventure. And then that brings me to speaking of content and how it's going to be aligned. We've kind of been a renegade. We haven't allowed the other things out there in the D&D ecosystem to really influence us. It's been very, and I have to say it's me, right? It's like, with some exceptions of some sponsors who have offered ideas, it's like, I would like to see an adventure around this. For the most part, all the content has been me saying, oh, this looks interesting. I want to build an adventure around this. But what we have decided is we are going to align things closer to what everyone else in the ecosystem is doing. So for example, Unearthed Arcana publishes Shattukai as an article. So we took that and made a supplement out of it, CR 0 to 20 Shattukai. because we've used Saturkai in the past. It's part of the current topic within this. It's one of the current topics in that ecosystem. And then, so the intent is we'll get Volas. We'll get Xanthars here next week, and we will plow through that and probably align some content to int as well. And then, as a part of that idea, we are going to be moving our permanent content to DM's Guild. We're still going to use drivethrurpg.com for distribution, because they're distribution tools for Patreon and for the volumes on Kickstarter. But because drive-thru's distribution tools are better, but the permanent home for the future material will be moved to the DM's Guild. So that's what's going on in the metagame. This is what we're thinking, where we're heading. If you have any comments or in particular ideas to improve things, we would love to hear those from you. I would really like to get more of those. Thanks a lot.